Hi everyone, this is my first time going on Facebook Live, so I'm super excited. My name is Anne Espiritu, and I'm so grateful to have this platform to be able to share my story today. Just a huge, huge virtual hug to Cash for inviting me to this platform and for sharing an incredibly vulnerable story earlier today. And of course, thanks to Jennifer for bringing all of us together in this virtual platform so that we can come together as a global family. So for my talk today, in line with the theme of the moment, which I believe is chaos and disorder, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. They're actually quite familiar concepts to me because I pretty much lived inside of it for about 4 years of my professional life. You see, in 2012, I essentially took on a job that I felt woefully unprepared for. I was appointed as the head of global communications for Yahoo. For many of you guys who may remember, it's one of the early pioneers of the internet, and I would argue was one of the most beloved brands in technology of our time, actually. This was after I had spent quite 7 glorious, amazing, and inspiring years at one of the most magical places to work for, which is at Google, where I had this tremendous opportunity, even as a junior manager and associate, to work with tech luminaries like former CEO Eric Schmidt, the co-founders of Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. But for me, most life-altering, I had the tremendous opportunity to work for the first female engineer that got hired at Google, and also she was known as the gatekeeper for Google Search, which was Marissa Mayer. Marissa and I pretty much was able to work together for most of that 7 years, and I felt absolutely privileged to have earned the loyalty, the trust, and respect of someone that was growing to become one of the greatest female tech icons of our time back then, and also whose face was being featured in top-tier magazines and publications like Fast Company and Fortune magazine and Vogue and New York Times and Wall Street Journal and so many more. And so as you can imagine, in 2012, when she was appointed as the chief executive officer for Yahoo and was tasked with an impossible job of saving the operating business, I naturally had to call her and say, like, hey, congratulations. What types of opportunities are there for me in your PR department? I have to say that I don't really remember much about the conversation that she and I had. All I remember was that it lasted for about 15 minutes. I was actually walking my dog Charlie around the streets, but all I could remember was her saying to me, Anne, let's transform Yahoo together. Come join me, and we will work out the details of your role later. And without even thinking, without even considering it, I unflinchingly and unwaveringly said, yes, like, fuck yes, yes. Um, in large part because when someone believes in you that much, you don't really want to say no. Like, you should not say no. And I know that she believed in me that much. And so I have to admit, though, that I was not prepared to endure 4 of the most challenging, grueling, yet admittedly most formidable years of my life. You see, what I've never really shared before, and what most people don't know about my journey, is that I literally went from not ever having managed a team or a human being before to essentially being handed a global organization of 60 people, 13,000 employees, the entire media industry who was breathing down our necks during that time, all of Yahoo investors, to essentially convince them that I was smart enough, I was capable enough, and I was prepared for the job. All the while believing with every bone in my body that, quite frankly, I wasn't. Those 4 years of being at Yahoo felt like living inside of one of the longest and most intense action-packed movies there ever was. And for me to be one of the main characters with only a fork as a weapon. I'm not sure if any of you guys were around back then. It was between 2012 to 2016, but there was a lot written about us. We were literally making headlines every single day. And for every piece of article that was written about Marissa and was written about the company, it was me and my little team who were in the front lines managing it all, literally 24 hours, 7 days a week. As a company, we endured so much highs and lows. We went from being able to build a $1 billion business, a mobile business from scratch that generated a lot of press, including, being garnering a cover story on Fast Company, to having to announce that we were doing multiple rounds of layoffs, both internally and externally, to being a target for major security breaches, to being a target for investor activism, and finally, in 2016, having to announce that we were selling the company to Verizon. I cannot even tell you the sheer amount and sheer volume of work that went into those 4 years, not just for me, but really for every employee at Yahoo. I remember, speaking with a New York Times reporter who just empathized with me so much and said, genuinely asked me, Anne, how are you doing? Because he really believed that I had the hardest communications job in the Valley. There was so much extreme pressure that was placed on me every single day. And I have to say, compounded on top of what already felt like, a mountain of pressure that I was enduring every single day, I had this, other extra layer of personal pressure that was placed on me to essentially, to be able to live up to the expectations. And I got to tell you that was probably the hardest thing for me, because in all truth, I didn't feel prepared for the job. I had to learn through the job. The traditional path that someone like me would, go on is that they get to learn from, from their managers who have already walked that same path that I was trying to embark on. I didn't have that luxury. My CEO didn't have, because I reported to the CEO, and so there was no one really above me beyond my CEO, but she did not have the capacity to breathe, let alone consistently be able to mentor me around leadership. So as you can imagine, coming home every single day or coming to work, I was pretty much gripped with fear of letting down my CEO, fear of failing, fear of failing my team and failing my family. Obviously, I would eventually close the gap between where I was and where I needed to be. But I had to admit that I pretty much spent the first year and a half of my tenure at Yahoo pretending I knew what I was doing, until that became so painful. And I basically just one day said shit, this is not working. Pretending is not working. Because you lose credibility when you pretend that you know what you're doing, and you lose the trust of your peers and your team. And so one day I finally just mustered, all of the courage that I had inside of me. And I basically admitted to my team, I was like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help. I need a lot of help. And I'm so grateful for that moment, and for for Marissa and my entire team, because what they did was rally around me and essentially help me bridge the gap and helped me become the leader that they all saw the potential for me to become. It wasn't my intellect that saved me. It was humility that saved me. It was also humility that saved me from, saved me and also helped me go from being one of the most despised organizational leaders across the company. And I know because we used to track this with a company survey, to really be becoming recognized as one of the best, as a way for me to conclude my tenure at Yahoo. And this was all, again, like tracked by company surveys. While I can't really sit here and tell you that I thoroughly enjoyed all of those moments of extreme stress as they were happening, I have to tell you that I am so grateful for the opportunity and the experience, because had it not been that, that period of my life, I would also not have had the courage to, to basically leave corporate America 3 years ago and jump into jump into the unknown in search of my deeper truth. Because I needed to have the stomach to be able to understand, honestly, that like I know how it feels to be inside of the unknown, and so I know that things are just going to work out okay. And I felt that my experience at Yahoo really allowed me to endure that. And in addition, that as we sort of live through a season of the unknown where we can't actually see what's going to happen in front of us, it's allowed me to navigate this new reality that we're finding ourselves in with more ease and more calmness and more groundedness. So what did I learn? That's can be helpful as I conclude my talk. Like, what did I learn during that season of rapid daily moment to moment change? I only have three things. One is change creates space for growth. It's only through change where we can actually grow taller. And if we're willing participants and we're committed to change, even as uncomfortable as it feels, we can really grow a lot taller. So that's one. The second is, when someone believes in you, believe in them. Oftentimes we focus so much on the criticism or even the inner critic inside of us, when we have so many people trying to celebrate us. Even better if they're willing to invest in us. Something that Marissa used to tell me that I still apply in my life today is, she used to always remind me, we are so much more capable than we believe about ourselves. And that has the benefit of truth, but we have to go through that experience. And then finally, for me, humility, not to be mistaken as modesty, okay? Like, I'm talking about humility here, can be our greatest ally in life. And I would argue probably even more so than intellect. That's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to this talk. And wherever you are around the world, I am sending you guys love and light. Thank you.